It's almost like you get kidnapped and the kidnapper has a mask on, but once he shows you his face, he's got to kill you.
Correct.
And they've shown their face.
Yeah. Again, I don't think there's anything they wouldn't do. I mean, you put out something, I think it was on Twitter yesterday, which was, to sort of that extreme, like, well, if they can't get Trump this way, what's the next level? And I think they've proven that they'll do that in the past. I think we're now figuring that out. We understand it. I think the system's probably been broken for, much longer than any of us would care to admit. And for me, I saw it firsthand. I think
at least 61 years it's been broken since they killed the president in an election year.
Exactly. And for me, even when we started this process, I'd say it's safe to say I was probably the number 2 target of Russia. And I was like, well, there must be something to it. I know I didn't obviously collude with Russia, but maybe I took a selfie with an agent once because I took 10,000 selfies a day, right? So but even like knowing that I was a target, I was like, I still believed because I wanted to, right? I wanted to believe that America is the greatest place in the world, and you can do it. And I'm like, it's the FBI. And again, there's some door kickers that I'm still like, hey, they're home team. I get it. They're doing. Eventually, those guys are going to have to speak up, though, right?
We're long past.
I gave the door kickers a pass for far too long, which is like, hey, they can't go against the leadership, but like, when you're watching this kind of bastardization of justice, when you're watching this sort of lopsided level, when they spend more time, kicking down the doors of an Amish farmer selling unpasteurized milk than actually going after people committing terror because, they're trans or, whatever it is that they are, you really lose that ability to get that pass that I really wanted them to give. But I wanted to believe that everything I grew up believing was accurate, and it's all bullshit. It's just all bullshit. So we have to fix that. That's why we fight now, to actually make it so.
But you saw this on January 6th too. I mean, I know that Joe Scarborough and the rest of the liars presented those people as like insurrectionists and dangerous. They were actually the most pure-hearted and 100%. The most naive about they were literally walking with pocket constitutions saying, no, you can't do this. They believed in the system much more than the people who put them in prison who don't believe in it at all.
Without question. And you saw that. I mean, the narrative was pushed so much. The clips that they used were designed to create something that didn't actually happen. I mean, it's so sick. I always say, it was the first unarmed insurrection in the history of insurrections. I mean, it's never happened before, but arguably, I'd say probably the most heavily armed populace if they wanted to have been, right?
Of course.
But of course it wasn't an insurrection. It didn't matter. And they just wanted to run out the clock.
Like they could hardly believe this was happening. And I think you're describing the same thing. Like you really believed it in our institutions and our norms and democracy.
I did. And it took, again, I mean, literally threats of, you're going to jail for treason, a crime punishable by death. That's like not a great swing thought when you're going through it. You know what I mean? I'm like, wait a minute. Like,
if you're the father of 5 kids, that's not.
And yet I still, at the beginning of it, I was like, and then it just, your eyes start to open and you see the games and you see the people that are on your side and you see the Lindsey Grahams of the world, right? They get on TV and they're on, Fox or something like that. And they're like, well, we must subpoena these people and we must get to the bottom of this. I'm like, well, you're like the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. Like you have the authority to do that. But you're talking about doing the thing that you have the authority to do, but you're unwilling to actually exercise that power. So that was what disgusted me most about like the Republicans, right? You're telling your base, the people who are watching, like you're fighting, but you know damn well that you're not actually fighting, right? And we see that so much. That's the difference between. It's the difference between the Democrats. I mean, they've shown, hey, they'll put their opposition in jail, they'll smother them, they'll silence them. There's nothing they won't do to preserve power. We'll write a strongly worded memo and do nothing to follow up. And I think as long as you have that sort of imbalance in the response, nothing changes. Because the Democrats, they'll take their win, they'll run to the bank, they'll laugh their ass off along the way, and nothing changes until we actually start fighting back.
I think a lot of people yesterday when that verdict came down, I'm among them, my first reaction was, wow, they'll actually hurt us. Like they would execute us, me, I'll just say, speak for myself, and there would be an MSNBC panel of former federal prosecutors telling their audience that I deserved it, and they'd be laughing. And the Lincoln Project would send out a congratulatory tweet, and I was like, wow, there's sort of a lack of humanity, there's a coldness, there's an evil under all of this that I think I underestimate.
I think we all did. And by the way, I think many still do. Again, it's hard to believe that you could live through these last 8 years or whatever, 10 years, and not think that. I mean, look at, that this is even, within 10 points in terms of an election. Like, I can't name literally a single metric, a single one, geopolitical, economic, or otherwise, like where we're better off now. And yet, they'll outraise us. They'll do this. The media still pushes it as though, Bidenomics is doing wonderfully for you. Like, I get it. I'm the son of a billionaire. If I'm pissed off at the grocery store, like, I'm not like one of these woke guys on one of these channels where it's like, my 3-month-old baby was talking about nuclear proliferation on the Korean Peninsula, Tucker, and she was crying. She was scared. It's like, I get it. Like, I understand where I'm come from. I'm totally comfortable with that. I've been blessed. But like, if I'm sitting there with sticker shock, like, what's the country feeling? If I see what's going on in my interest rates on my mortgage, like, man, how much longer can we do this? Then you talk about wars and trillions of dollars of spending, and then the Republicans are telling us that, the Ukraine is the #1 most important issue for Republicans across our country. I've heard that from Mitch McConnell dozens of times. It's just not, right? I've spoken in front of more Republicans in the last year than Mitch McConnell has in his entire lifetime. And I think I've surveyed, probably I do it live, like just at a speech, 1,000 people here, 500 people here, 5,000 people there. It's been a top 10 issue at about 65,000 people for 3 people. One of them was a DC sort of beltway guy. Yeah. He felt very strongly about it. Probably he was profiteering off of it. One of them misunderstood the question, so he thought it was a double negative. So it was not, in fact, a top 10 issue for him. Because is it top 3 or top 10? And one of them, it was top 10, but not top 3. And I said, sir, and I'll ask him. I don't care. I want to hear it out. Like, I'm from Kiev, Ukraine. I was like, I'm going to give you a pass. So I'm going to effectively say, out of about 65,000 people surveyed in the last, let's call it 2 years, 18 months, whatever it is since the war started, a little more, I guess, basically 0 people have been in favor of this. But the leader of the Senate will tell us it's the #1 issue for Republicans across the country. It's just not so.
How can that be? I was in D.C. last night. I never go back. I'm from there. Mm-hmm. And I took 3 people to dinner, 4 people at the table. Nobody drank. We're all 3. I am a teetotaler, so are the other 3. Yeah. And it's a good restaurant, but not like a famous restaurant. Yeah. Restaurant I've eaten at for many years. The bill was $800 for 4. $800.
Not drinking.
Not drinking and nothing crazy. Yeah. Like salad, steak, dessert, $800. Right. And I thought, I'm pretty insulated from cost, but I thought, I can't. How do people live here?
My experience was opposite of that. I took 2 of my boys on a fishing trip, and we were coming back, traveling through an airport, and we went to a McDonald's, and it was my 11-year-old boy, my 14-year-old boy, and me at the time. It was the last, and it was like $47 and change.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.